Shalom, welcome back to the Sequential Midrash Aggadah series. Today we are entering Bereshis Rabbah Chapter 24. On the verse, "This is the book of the descendants of Adam. On the day that God created man, He made him in the likeness of God." At first, this sounds like a simple opening to a genealogy. The Torah is about to list generations, names, lifetimes, fathers and sons. But the Midrash hears something much deeper. It hears a question. What is written in the book of Adam? Is it only a record of births and deaths? Is it only a family tree? Or is it the hidden book of the human soul, the book where every generation, every leader, every failure, every repair, and every human possibility is already seen before heaven? The Midrash begins with a strong image from Isaiah. People who try to hide their counsel from Hashem. They go into darkness and say, "Who sees us? Who knows us?" The Midrash compares this to people hiding in secret rooms, tunnels, and caves, while the one who built the rooms and caves is standing right there. He knows the structure. He knows every entrance. He knows every hiding place. That is the first message of this chapter. A person can hide from people. A person can hide behind words, behind appearances, behind private thoughts, behind religious language, even behind silence. But no one hides from the one who formed the human being. And this is not only frightening, it is also healing, because if God knows the hidden place, then God also knows the hidden wound. God knows the intention that no one else understood. God knows the struggle beneath the behavior. God knows the inner chamber where the soul is still trying to return. So, when the Torah says, "This is the book of the descendants of Adam," the Midrash is telling us, this book is not only public history, it is also hidden history. It is the record beneath the record. Then the Midrash turns to a verse from Psalms. "Your eyes saw my unfinished form, and in your book they were all written." Adam in the Midrash is not merely one individual man in the beginning. Adam is the great root of humanity. His soul contains the seed of all later generations. The sages describe him as stretching across the world, from one end to the other. This is not meant only as physical size. It means Adam contained universal human potential. God showed Adam every generation, every wise person, every leader, every teacher, and every generation with its own spiritual task. Adam saw that history would not be flat. Each generation would have its own mission, its own repair, its own dangers, and its own people appointed to lead it. This is powerful because we often compare ourselves to another generation. We say, "Why am I not living in the days of the prophets? Why am I not living in a simpler time? Why is my generation so confused?" But the Midrash says that every generation has its own leaders and its own tools. God does not place a generation into the world without planting within it the souls, teachings, and strengths needed for that generation's work. The same is true for a person. You were not created for someone else's moment. You were created for the exact field in which your soul was planted. Then the Midrash brings the idea of the book of life. It cites the prayer, "May they be erased from the book of life and not be inscribed with the righteous." This is a serious teaching. A human life is not measured only by breathing, eating, working, and surviving. A person can be alive physically and yet live outside the deeper book of life. To be written in the book means to live with purpose, with righteousness, with alignment, with a life that adds holiness to the world. So the question becomes, what kind of entry are we writing with our days? Every word writes something. Every choice writes something. Every hidden act of restraint, every moment of kindness, every time we refuse to embarrass someone, every time we choose truth when falsehood would be easier, something is written. The Midrash then brings a strange and dramatic teaching about winds. There are destructive winds that almost destroy the world. One in the days of Jonah, one in the days of Job, and one in the days of Elijah. A wind in this language is not just weather. A wind is a force, a spirit, a movement that can shake a person, a house, a generation, or an entire civilization. There are winds of arrogance, winds of confusion, winds of despair, winds of falsehood, winds of rebellion, winds that push people away from their own center. But the Midrash says God weakens these winds. The wind goes out with destructive force, but God breaks its power on mountains and hills. In other words, chaos is real, but it is not ultimate. Destruction has energy, but it does not have the final word. This is very important. The world may feel like it is being pushed by violent winds. A person may feel that way internally too. But the Midrash shows God limiting the force of destruction. The storm is allowed to blow, but not to erase everything. And then the Midrash connects this to redemption. The King Messiah does not arrive until all the souls intended to be created have come into the world. This means history is not random. Every soul matters. Every soul adds something to the completion of the world. Then the chapter turns to Torah. It brings a verse from Job. Then he looked and recorded it. He prepared it and perfected it. And he said to men, "Behold, fear of the Lord is wisdom." The Midrash imagines that the Torah, in some way, was fitting to be given to Adam. After all, Adam was the creation of God's own hands. He had wisdom. He had closeness. He had the beginning of all humanity inside him. But then the Midrash asks, if Adam could not even fulfill the first few commandments he received, how could he carry the fullness of Torah? How could he receive 613 commandments? So, the Torah is not given to Adam alone. It is given later through his descendants, through Israel, through a people, through a covenant, through generations. This is a very deep point. Torah is not only for one spiritual giant. Torah is for a people walking through time. The chapter also plays with the word this. This is the book. Not something vague, not something abstract. This, the life in front of you, the generation in front of you, the commandments in front of you, the human being in front of you. The Midrash says that Adam taught future generations traits, skills, and even the rulings of a book. This means holiness is not only in prayer and study. Holiness also enters craftsmanship, writing, order, measurement, building, family, work, and the practical structures that allow human life to function. Then the Midrash enters a more hidden teaching. It speaks about beings and spirits associated with Adam during a period of separation. And it connects this to Solomon and the spirits that could trouble a person. Whether we understand this literally, symbolically, or spiritually, the message is clear. When the human being is divided from proper alignment, strange forces can emerge. Unintegrated desire gives birth to confusion. Separation from holiness gives room for distorted energies. But when a person returns to order, those forces lose their authority. Then the Midrash says that on the day God created man, 3 things happened. Adam and Eve were created. They came together, and they produced offspring. The point is not merely chronology. The point is that humanity was created with continuation built into it. Human beings are not isolated sparks. We are branches of a living root. And now the chapter reaches one of its greatest teachings. The verse says that God made man in the likeness of God. From here, Rabbi Akiva says, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself," is a great principle of Torah. Why? Because if every person is made in the likeness of God, then to degrade another person is not a small thing. To shame a person, curse a person, cheat a person, or treat a person as disposable is to insult the image of God carried by that person. This does not mean every person behaves well. It does not mean every action is right. But it means that beneath every human being is a divine imprint. Human dignity is not granted by society. It is not granted by status, wealth, popularity, beauty, or intelligence. It is rooted in creation itself. Then Ben Azzai says that this verse, "This is the book of the descendants of Adam," is an even greater principle. Why would this be greater than love your neighbor as yourself? Because as yourself can still depend on the size of the self. If a person has a narrow self, a wounded self, a selfish self, then even loving others as himself may remain limited. But the book of Adam goes deeper. It says, "Before I compare another person to myself, I must remember that both of us come from the same root. Both of us are written in the same human book. Both of us stand under the same Creator." This is the foundation of human responsibility. The Midrash even warns against embarrassing someone who has already been degraded. Do not say, "Since I was cursed, let my fellow be cursed with me." Do not drag someone else into your pain. Do not make another person's humiliation the companion of your own. This is very practical. Sometimes, when people are hurt, they want others to hurt. When they are ashamed, they want others to be ashamed. When they feel low, they want to pull someone down beside them. But the Midrash says, be careful. The other person is also made in the likeness of God. To love your neighbor is not only emotion, it is behavior, it is restrained, it is refusing to use your pain as permission to damage someone else. And this is where chapter 24 becomes very beautiful. It begins with people hiding in caves and darkness, saying, "Who sees us?" And it ends with the image of God in man saying, "Be careful how you treat one another." So the movement of the chapter is from hiddenness to responsibility. God sees the hidden rooms. God sees the book of generations. God sees the winds that almost destroy. God sees the Torah that must be given at the right time. God sees every soul that must still enter the world. God sees the image of God inside the person in front of you. And therefore, the spiritual life is not only about being seen by God. It is about learning to see others correctly. When you look at a person, you are not only seeing personality, you are not only seeing behavior, you are not only seeing history, culture, weakness, or appearance. You are seeing someone whose existence belongs to the book of Adam. That does not remove discernment. It deepens it. It means justice must be joined to dignity. Truth must be joined to compassion. Correction must be joined to humility. Strength must be joined to the awareness that every soul stands before the same Creator. This is the book of the descendants of Adam. It is the book of humanity. It is the book of hidden rooms and revealed deeds. It is the book of generations and leaders. It is the book of winds restrained by heaven. It is the book of Torah prepared in wisdom. It is the book where each person is measured by how they treat the image of God in another. So, the lesson is simple but very deep. Do not hide from God. Do not underestimate your generation. Do not think your choices vanish. Do not let destructive winds convince you they are permanent. Do not treat people as ordinary, because no person made in the likeness of God is ordinary. And when you meet another human being, remember, this person too belongs to the book. This person too comes from Adam. This person too is seen by heaven. This person too carries a trace of the divine image. And if we can live with that awareness, then our own page in the book becomes cleaner, brighter, and more worthy of being written among the righteous. May our words, deeds, and hidden intentions become worthy lines in that sacred living human record. Shalom.